There is something you need to hear today, and a part of you already feels it. Someone did not only notice you, they did not only admire you for a moment, smile at you, or enjoy your company for a little while. No. Someone fell for you in a way that surprised even them. And the strongest part of this story is that it did not happen for the obvious reasons. It was not only your looks. It was not because you tried to impress them. It was not because you chased them, begged for their attention, or forced the bond. It happened because of three very specific things about you, three things that touched places inside them they had kept locked for a very long time. And the second one is the one most people never see coming. Stay with me, because that part may explain moments that once left you confused. Maybe you wondered why they looked at you a certain way, why their energy changed around you, why some moments felt deeply close, almost too intense to ignore, and then suddenly they became distant, quiet, guarded, hard to read. That shift hurt because it made no sense on the surface. How can someone feel so close one minute and so unreachable the next? But this is where many people get love wrong. Real love does not always create quick comfort. Sometimes it does the opposite. Sometimes it opens old pain. Sometimes it wakes up fear. Sometimes it brings to the surface feelings a person spent years trying not to feel. And that may be exactly what happened here. Because when someone truly falls for you, especially someone who hides their emotions, they do not only feel desire, they feel exposed. They feel vulnerable. They feel the quiet fear of being seen too clearly. The people who affect us most are often the ones who wake up the hidden parts inside us. Not because they try to, not because they plan it, but because their presence slips past the walls we built. Suddenly the mask starts to crack. Suddenly the carefully managed emotional world begins to shake. Suddenly the part of them that looked strong and in control no longer feels so steady. And that is where the first reason begins. The first reason they fell in love with you is because you made them feel emotionally safe without trying to control them. That may sound small, but it is very rare. Most people enter connection carrying pressure they do not admit. They want proof. They want certainty. They want reassurance. Their energy quietly says, "Come closer. Explain yourself. Pick me. Promise me. Prove this is real." But your energy felt different. Even when you wanted closeness, there was something in your presence that did not feel manipulative. You were present without being heavy. You were kind without demanding. You gave space without acting cold. And whether you knew it or not, that changed something deep inside them. Because people who guard their hearts usually expect love to become pressure. They expect closeness to turn into duty. They expect vulnerability to be used against them. Somewhere in their past, they learned that opening up came with a price. Maybe affection became criticism. Maybe honesty was answered with shame. Maybe love came with rejection or abandonment. So they learned to protect themselves. They became careful. They held back. They became experts at not showing too much. Then you came into their life, and the way you moved around them quietly challenged that whole emotional pattern. Your energy said something they almost never felt from others. "I see you, and I am not here to trap you." That kind of safety is not normal. It reaches past the mind and into the body. It tells the nervous system that maybe, just maybe, it is finally safe to soften. And often the person feeling this cannot even explain what is happening. They only notice that they feel different around you, calmer, less tense, more aware. They think about you when they are alone. Your absence feels heavier than they expected. Your presence feels like relief they cannot put into words. And that is how love often begins. Not always with fireworks, not always with dramatic confessions. Sometimes it begins in quiet recognition. Sometimes the heart says yes before the mind even understands the question. But here is the painful twist. The safer they felt with you, the more dangerous you became to their defenses. That sounds strange, but it is one of the deepest emotional truths. People often think avoidance means a person feels nothing. Many times the opposite is true. Avoidance becomes strongest when feelings grow too big. The deeper the bond feels, the stronger the survival reaction becomes. Their mind starts searching for reasons to slow down, back away, get control again, protect yourself. Do not feel too much. Do not let this matter too much. Because if this matters deeply, then losing it would hurt deeply too. And maybe you saw that with your own eyes. Maybe just when things felt closer, they became more silent, harder to read, less steady, like they were fighting something you could not see. They were, but many times they were not fighting you. They were fighting what your presence awakened in them. Here is what most people miss. A person can care deeply and still pull away. A person can feel love and still look confused. A person can want closeness and still act like distance feels safer. That contradiction does not always mean the feeling is fake. Sometimes it means the feeling is so real that it scares them. Now here comes the second reason, and this is the part that may hit the hardest. The second reason they fell in love with you is because you reflected back the parts of themselves they had pushed away. Every person has a hidden side, a place inside where unspoken feelings live. Tenderness, need, grief, desire, softness, longing, vulnerability. Many people spend years building an identity that helps them avoid these parts. They become highly independent, calm, logical, detached, strong, controlled. Not because these traits are false, but because those traits help them survive pain. Then someone enters their life who mirrors the self they buried. That may have been you. Without trying, you reflected back the emotional depth they had hidden from the world and from themselves. Your softness stood in front of their hardness. Your honesty quietly exposed their suppression. Your intuition touched things they worked hard to keep covered. And then something powerful happened. You made them feel visible. Not just noticed on the outside, but seen underneath. And being truly seen is beautiful, but it is also terrifying. Because when someone sees beneath the surface, the old masks stop working. Maybe you noticed moments where they reacted strongly to very simple things you said. Maybe you understood them in ways they never expected. Maybe you sensed pain behind their calm face. Maybe you saw patterns in them that they never explained to you. And each time you touched one of those hidden truths, something inside them reacted. Not because you were wrong, because you were right. And being seen accurately can shake a person who built their whole emotional survival around staying unreadable. This is why they may have pulled away after moments that felt especially close, not because the bond got weaker, because it got stronger. You became a mirror, and mirrors reveal more than beauty. They reveal cracks. They reveal loneliness. They reveal fear. They reveal the ache a person has spent years trying not to name. Through you, they may have started to realize how lonely they really were, how emotionally tired they had become, how much warmth they secretly missed, how much tenderness they still wanted even after pretending they needed nobody. And that realization can shake a person to the core, especially someone who depends on being composed. The ego loves control. It says, stay cool, stay protected, stay above all of this. Do not need anyone, do not depend on anyone, do not soften too much. But love does something the ego cannot stand. Love humbles people. Love melts control. Love breaks the image a person tried so hard to protect. Love says, you are not as untouched as you pretend to be. And that may have been the most shocking part for them. Not that they liked you, not that they were drawn to you, but that you reached the parts of them they promised nobody would ever reach again. That can create a painful split inside. One part wants to move toward you, another part wants to run. One part feels peace, another part feels panic. One part wants to surrender, Another part fears getting lost. This inner war creates mixed signals, silence, hot and cold behavior, strange pauses, emotional inconsistency that leaves the other person confused. Not because love is missing, because love is crashing into old wounds that never fully healed. If you have been confused by the way they acted, hear this carefully. Sometimes the person who feels the most is the one who shows the least. Not because they do not care, but because caring this much overwhelms them. And when a person is overwhelmed, they do not always move closer. Sometimes they freeze, sometimes they disappear, sometimes they go quiet, while feeling everything all at once. That is why the bond could feel so strong in silence and still remain hard to explain with words. And now we come to the third reason. The third reason they fell in love with you is because you woke up something they thought was gone. Hope. Not fantasy, not obsession. Hope. Real, emotional hope. This runs deeper than attraction and even deeper than chemistry. At some point in life, many people slowly stop believing in deep connection. They still go through the motions, they still smile, they still talk to others, they still live their life. But inside, something shuts down. They lower their expectations. They stop expecting to be fully understood. They stop believing anyone will truly meet them in the places that matter most. They learn how to survive without asking for much. Then, without warning, someone changes everything. A conversation feels different. A presence feels familiar. An energy feels meaningful in a way that cannot be faked. And suddenly, something asleep inside them begins to wake up. They start thinking in possibilities again. They start feeling alive again. They begin wanting things they trained themselves not to want. Closeness, comfort, belonging, emotional home. And that becomes dangerous for someone who survived by needing less. Because hope changes the whole emotional landscape. Hope opens the heart. And once the heart opens, numbness can no longer protect them. This may be why they think about you more than you realize, because you did not only become a person in their life, you became proof that love inside them may not be dead after all. But stay with me because this next truth matters. The moment hope comes back, fear usually comes back with it. Because hope creates stakes. Now there is something to lose. Now distance hurts. Now silence means something. Now rejection feels sharp. Now vulnerability has a cost. And this is where many wounded people begin to sabotage the very thing they want most, not because they do not want love, because they want it so deeply that the thought of losing it feels unbearable. Read that slowly in your heart. Sometimes people damage what they most desire because desire itself makes them feel too exposed. That is why someone can love you and still retreat, miss you and still stay silent, need you and still resist closeness. It may not make sense logically, but emotionally it can make perfect sense, especially if their past taught them that attachment leads to pain. And if there is still one question burning inside you, it may be this. If they truly felt all of this, why did they not say it? Why the pause? Why the wall? Why the silence? The answer may be simple and deep at the same time. Words require acceptance, and they may still be fighting acceptance. To say, "I love you," is not just a sentence for some people. It is surrender. It means admitting a truth they can no longer control. It means saying, "You matter to me." It means accepting that your presence now has the power to affect them, to heal them, to hurt them, to change them. And some people delay confession not because they feel too little, but because they feel so much that saying it out loud would force them to face everything they have been avoiding, including one truth they may not be ready to speak. Loving you changed them. That may be the hidden reason behind the strange intensity, the pull, the hesitation, the moments that felt almost sacred followed by moments that felt painfully confusing. Because change sounds beautiful when people talk about growth and healing, but inside the human mind, real change often feels like a small death before it feels like a rebirth. It asks the old self to loosen its grip. It asks old defenses to step back. It asks survival habits to stop leading the whole story. That process is rarely clean. It is messy. It is awkward. It can make someone look distant, while inside they are quietly falling apart. So if you judge this connection only by what was visible, you may have missed what was happening underneath the silence. What makes all of this even harder is that many people expect real love to create instant clarity. But that is not always how it works. Sometimes real love creates confusion first, because it crashes into everything unresolved. Buried feelings rise up. Old wounds start speaking again. Fear of abandonment returns. Trust issues return. Shame returns. Even childhood patterns begin shaping adult choices in the background. That is why two people can feel something deep and still struggle to move toward each other. Love is not only chemistry. Love also wakes up unfinished inner work. And when that unfinished work comes alive, a person usually faces two paths: stay asleep and keep running, or finally face the patterns that have controlled them for years. Maybe that is why you saw something in their eyes that their words never matched. Eyes often reveal what language cannot. The body often tells the truth long before the mouth does. Maybe you noticed the way they looked at you when they thought you were not paying attention. Maybe you felt the shift in their energy when someone else got close to you. Maybe you sensed tension in moments that should have felt easy. Those moments were not necessarily in your imagination. Intuitive people often doubt themselves because emotionally guarded people create ambiguity. But intuition does not work through logic alone. It reads patterns. It feels changes. It notices what behavior is trying to hide. And if a part of you kept feeling there was more beneath their silence, there may have been. But here is the part you must not ignore, especially if you have spent a long time waiting, thinking, hoping, and hurting. Their feelings may be real. Their fear may be real. Their struggle may be real. And still, their healing is not your job. That sentence matters more than you think, because many loving people lose themselves trying to help someone who is emotionally blocked. They give more. They wait longer. They explain more. They become softer, more available, more patient, more understanding. Until one day they realize they have disappeared inside the effort. There is a dangerous line between compassion and self-abandonment. Loving someone should never mean leaving yourself behind. Understanding their pain should never mean excusing endless inconsistency. Feeling empathy for their fear should never mean carrying the whole emotional weight of the connection alone. And maybe this is what you needed to hear most today, because the deeper story is not only about why they fell in love with you, it is also about what this connection revealed in you. Why did this hit you so deeply? Why did their silence hurt that much? Why did their mixed energy pull you into such intense reflection? Sometimes the people who awaken others also awaken us. Just as you mirrored hidden parts of them, they may have mirrored hidden parts of you. Maybe they touched your longing to be fully chosen. Maybe they woke up old abandonment pain. Maybe they exposed your fear of being loved halfway. Maybe they showed you how easy it is to mistake emotional intensity for emotional availability. That truth can hurt, but it is also powerful because awareness changes everything. Sometimes we place our unmet needs onto another person without knowing it. We start believing they hold the key to our healing, our closure, our peace, our destiny. We become attached not only to who they are, but to what they represent. They become the symbol of hope, redemption, love, completion. But sooner or later, life asks a deeper question. What part of what you want from them must first be rebuilt inside you? That question changes the whole connection, because when you stop chasing completion through another person, something shifts. You become clearer, calmer, more grounded, more powerful. You stop begging uncertain people for certainty. You stop overreading every text, every silence, every delay. You stop shrinking so someone else can feel safer around your love. And strangely enough, this inner shift often changes the dynamic more than anything else ever could. Emotionally guarded people are very sensitive to energy. They feel pressure, they feel pursuit, they feel emotional dependence. But they also feel something else. They feel absence. They feel when the person who kept reaching for them becomes still. They feel when someone stops chasing and comes back home to themselves. And that moment can become a turning point. Not because it is a game, not because distance is a trick, but because authenticity carries a quiet force. When you stop betraying yourself, the energy changes. And if they truly fell for you because of those three things, your emotional safety, your power to reflect hidden truth, and your ability to awaken hope, then the worst thing you can do now is abandon those very qualities while trying to hold on to them. Stay aligned with the version of you that touched their heart. Stay honest, stay grounded, stay warm, but stay rooted in self-respect. Real love cannot grow in a place where you keep betraying yourself. This may be the deeper lesson hidden inside the pain. You do not create healthy love by forcing movement. You create space for love by living in truth. And truth has a quiet strength. Truth says, I feel what I feel. Truth says, I will not deny the connection. Truth says, I do not need to chase what is meant to meet me. Truth says, I can love deeply without losing myself. That energy changes everything. And if they truly are fighting their own walls, there may come a day when the pressure inside them becomes too heavy to ignore. Because love that is buried does not simply vanish, it builds. What is denied emotionally often returns in thoughts, in dreams, in memory, in longing, in restless nights, in moments of silence when distractions finally disappear. That may be when your absence becomes loudest to them. That may be when they replay the conversations, when they remember how safe they felt with you, how seen they felt, how alive hope felt in your presence. And if they ever become fully honest with themselves, they may reach the point where avoidance hurts more than vulnerability. That is usually where real change begins. Not when love first appears, but when running becomes more painful than staying. And this is another truth people often miss. You cannot force someone else to wake up, but you can stop interfering with that process. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is allow them to feel the truth of their own choices. Allow them to feel the emptiness of disconnection. Allow them to face themselves without you constantly covering the emotional gap. Not as punishment, not as revenge, but as truth. Because growth needs truth, and truth can sound like this. I care about you. I understand your fear. I see your struggle. But I cannot do your healing for you. That is love with boundaries. That is compassion without self-loss. That is maturity. And for many people who have loved deeply and waited painfully, this may be the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes, love is real and still not ready. That hurts because we want love alone to be enough. We want intensity to promise outcome. We want deep recognition to promise union. But connection by itself does not create a relationship. Love must be carried into action, into courage, into honesty, into steady choice. Without those things, even powerful love can remain stuck in potential. And potential can become one of the most painful emotional prisons, because almost love can haunt the heart. Almost connection can live in the mind for years. Almost confession can keep hope hanging in the air with nowhere to land. That is why clarity matters so much. Not forced clarity from them, inner clarity from you. Ask yourself with honesty, am I loving from strength or only from longing? Am I honoring what I feel while also honoring what I deserve? Am I waiting from peace or from fear of letting go? Those answers matter more than you know. Healing does not always mean forgetting someone. Sometimes healing means loving them without letting uncertainty destroy your peace. Sometimes healing means accepting the connection while releasing control over the timing. Sometimes healing means trusting that what is real does not need desperation to survive. And if this person truly loves you, one truth remains. Real love eventually moves toward truth. Maybe not quickly, maybe not perfectly, maybe not in the way you imagined, but truth grows restless inside a person. The soul gets tired of denial, the heart gets tired of suppression, the mask becomes heavy, and eventually something gives way. The ego softens, the walls weaken, the truth rises. And if that moment ever comes for them, it will not be because you chased harder. It will be because they finally became ready to stop running from themselves. That is the part so many people miss. This connection may never have been only about romance. It may also have been about awakening. For them, and for you. Maybe they came into your life to teach you the difference between love and self-abandonment. Maybe you came into theirs to wake up the heart they buried. Maybe both are true. So, if you are still wondering whether what you felt was real, listen carefully. Not every intense connection is love, but not every unspoken love is imaginary either. Some of the most powerful connections unfold beneath words, beneath labels, beneath certainty. They change us before they ever become clear in the outer world. They open something inside. They reveal what still needs healing. They show us what the heart still longs for. And maybe that is what happened here. Maybe someone fell deeply in love with you because you gave them emotional safety, because you reflected the self they hid, because you woke hope where numbness used to live. And maybe the reason this touched you so deeply is because part of your soul knew something important was happening, even in the confusion. If this reached something unspoken inside you, stay close, because more insight like this is coming. And until love proves itself through truth and action, remember this. You were already deeply lovable long before anyone found the courage to admit it.